Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. Long time no see. Sorry it's been a while since I posted. I've been back at work full time since the middle of June, so it's been a little bit crazy obviously with lockdowns happening left, right and centre. But this second lockdown has given me a little bit of time to get myself in order in terms of making videos. So today I want to show you all the books that I've been reading since the last time I spoke to you. I'll be honest with you, a lot of these books were incredible. I feel like 2020 has been one of the best reading years for me personally. It's just been perfect escapism to get lost in a really good book. I will leave a list of all of the books down below and I'll pop a little star next to the ones that were gifted to me from publishers. So thank you very much to all the publishers for sending me some of these books. So first off, we're starting strong. We're going to start off with Boy Parts by Eliza Clark, and this is published by Influx Press. I read this when I went on holiday for my birthday back in October to Brighton. It's pretty much the only book that I read while I was there, and I'm so glad that I took this because this is my kind of book right here. So this book focuses around a young woman called Irina. She essentially just loves to take explicit photographs of men and male bodies. We follow her through her life essentially, and interlaced with that are some flashbacks to an incident that happened a while ago, and then the two kind of meet and we learn a lot more about her character and kind of the reasons behind her choices in life, I would say. I don't really want to tell you too much about this book. I feel like if that sounds like the kind of book that interests you, I'd 100% just pick it up and give it a go. It's very modern, which sounds weird, but there are lots of really relevant references in here that kind of took me by surprise. I don't think I've read a book in quite a while which was like referencing things from like 2019 and 2020. This book isn't afraid to be very graphic, so I will give a trigger warning for sexual abuse, assault, gore, violence. It does get quite disturbing. There's a couple of passages in this which were quite difficult to read. This is Editing Rachel here. I'm just looking back at me talking about Boy Parts, and I don't really feel like I encapsulated kind of how I feel about it and really what it's like. I think it's important to say that the character of Irina is like horrendous. She is horrible and scary and violent and really disturbing. It's almost like American Psycho-esque, and I don't really feel like that is how it came across in my review. It's incredibly disturbing. It's a difficult read, but it has a lot to say about art and class, and it is wonderful, but it is very dark and Irina is horrendous, which just makes it even more enjoyable to read. But I think it's important to mention that. Okay, anyway, back to the video. This is definitely my kind of book, so I really enjoyed it, but if that sounds like your kind of thing, this is a great place to start. Also, Influx Press are a really cool publishing company. I'd 100% look those up as well. Great indie publisher. So yeah. Next on the list is another from Influx Press. This is Famished by Anna Vaught. This is a review copy, but I think the finished product looks very similar to this. I love the design of this. This is a collection of short stories. I'm sure if you know my channel, you'll know that I am a huge advocate for short story collections. It's my favourite thing to read. And this was great. I really enjoyed it. My camera just stopped recording, apologies. Right. Back on it, we were talking about Famished. It has elements of magical realism in, which I really enjoyed, but it also has kind of a fairy tale-esque theme running throughout it. Favourite story in the collection was called Seaside Rock and Other Homicides, which mashed together kind of that like ethereal seaside romanticism with some really dark and disturbing themes. I feel like if you like Karen Russell short stories or A Guide to Being Born, or even like Kirsty Logan short stories, I feel like you'd really get on with this. It's really refreshing. It's a new take on the kind of disturbing short story, and yeah, really enjoyed it. The next book we're going to talk about is The Harpy by Megan Hunter, which is published by Picador. I actually read this really recently, so it's still quite nice and fresh in my brain. This is also really good. Honestly, we're starting off so strong. I told you it was a good reading year for me. So The Harpy is in essence about a breakup of a husband and wife. However, interlaced with this story are certain parts of prose which are about Lucy's obsession with the mythical creature of a harpy, how these creatures have been at the forefront of her mind since very early childhood. And I don't want to spoil anything, but kind of at the end, the two sections of the book kind of merge together and create this really unusual ending. Megan Hunter had this really great way of making me feel dread when a specific plot point was about to reveal itself, and when Lucy had found out something about the breakup or the affair that was happening, and you knew it was going to come out in the plot, and I could like feel my throat tightening because I was like, it's happening, and that feeling of dread, but also the feeling of like loneliness that Lucy really feels during the book. I really felt everything alongside her, and I feel like that only happens with really beautiful, well-written writing. I just felt myself completely like hooked on this story, even though we've read millions of stories about affairs and cheating and breakups. This just had a different feel about it, and I wonder if that really comes from the harpies and how they play into the story, and how we really tap into Lucy, the protagonist's psyche, about harpies and what they represent for her. It was great. I really enjoyed it. Next we have Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams, and this is published by Trapeze. It's taken me a long time to read this. I picked it up in about May, so it's been quite a while since I read it. It's really stuck in my brain, but I don't know why it took me so long to buy this, but I'm so glad I did, because oh my god, what a freaking great book this is. Even though myself and Queenie are a very similar age in the book, I feel like this is the kind of book that I'd have really appreciated when I was a bit younger, because I was always waiting for the books that I read, like young adult novels, to kind of like go there and not be afraid to really voice some political opinions and some opinions on femininity and feminism, and they never really got there for me, whereas this goes there. It's not afraid. It's quite frightening and sad how accurate some of the references are in this, especially to the Black Lives Matter protests, because I was reading this at the time that really picked up, and obviously this was written the year before, and it just kind of hammers in Candice's point about how important the movement is. It's an ongoing fight. It's also just incredibly funny. It has some genuinely really funny moments that I just appreciated, and I feel like Queenie's character was so brilliantly fleshed out. She felt so real, and yeah, it's ace. I'm sure you've all read it, but if not, I decided to read a bit of Mahari McFarlane. So here's the thing. I've read some of her work before and it was fine. I kind of messed myself up in this by reading them back to back because they're quite similar, and I just kind of felt the second time like I was reading the first book again. So the first one that I read was Don't You Forget About Me, which is definitely the one that I preferred, which has the main character of Georgina, who gets fired from her restaurant job and ends up working at a bar, and the guy that she used to be in like a whirlwind romance with back in high school ends up being the manager of the bar. Romantic story ensues. When I read Who's That Girl, which is about Edie, who is kissed by a groom on the wedding of a different marriage, she kind of has to deal with the backlash from that, and I liked the fact that this really went into like the misogyny of it, that people continually blamed Edie for something that was thrust upon her, and I liked the fact that that was so explicitly referenced. But then she ends up being a ghostwriter for a very famous actor, and I just kind of lost it. Like I could see where it was going, and I was like, I'm fine, and I enjoyed it, and it was, you know, it ended how we know they were going to end. But I don't know, maybe I expected like, maybe I was, I don't know. I think that's okay. Books can be fine, right? Like it doesn't have to be like groundbreaking, it can just be enjoyable, and they were absolutely enjoyable, so fine. I do like to go through everything I've read because not everything is going to be a hit, and unfortunately this one just wasn't. So this is Emma in the Night by Wendy Walker. The premise sold me absolutely. So it's about two sisters, Cass and Emma, and they disappear one night, never to be seen again, and then years later Cass appears on the doorstep of her mother's house, and we try and figure out together where have they been and where on earth is Emma, and is she ever going to come home. I just kind of lost it. There is this like elaborate story that happens, and I thought it was like satire. I don't know, like it really just didn't sit with me, and the characters are so painfully unlikable. And usually, I'm sure you know, I love an unreliable, unlikable narrator, but they were all just exhausting, that there wasn't any kind of like relief from that. There's also like quite a lot of disturbing imagery in this, and the families are really like messed up. It's just not a pleasant read. The next book that I read was Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Rennie Edo-Lodge. I picked this up quite a while ago, I think around July, August time, and I read it during August. It took me quite a long time to read. I really took my time with it. It took me about a month in total. Again, I'm sure you've probably all seen this before, and I'm sure a lot of you have read it and absolutely adored it, and this is no different. It's a fantastic non-fiction book. Instead of kind of going into the specificities of this book, I'd just like to suggest a couple of things, maybe if you didn't already know about them, or if you really enjoyed this, what I feel like you might like. I watched a fantastic video where Emma Watson interviews Rennie Edo-Lodge about the book, but also race and feminism, and it's just a wonderful interview. It's just two people who are so on the same wavelength, having a really in-depth chat and educating, and it's fantastic. My lovely friend also recommended that I listened to Rennie's podcast, which is called About Race, and I really enjoyed that. I'm currently going through the backlog of that, so I'm kind of listening to it back, but I'd 100% recommend listening to the podcast. This book is super important. I feel like it's recommended reading. It's the kind of book that I wish I'd have read even 10 years ago, just to primarily educate myself a lot more, but I'm so glad that I read it now. It is written so expertly. It's genuinely incredible, and if you haven't already read it, I'd 100% pick it up. Oh, I lied. There's another thing I wanted to talk about. So at the Lush showcase, Rennie actually did an interview with Richie Brave, which talks quite a bit about this book, but also expands on the topic quite a lot, and that is a fantastic interview. It's only got like 400 views on YouTube. I'll link it down below. Definitely go and have a watch of that. It's really good and really insightful, so I'd recommend that too. Let's talk about Women Don't Owe You Pretty by Florence Given, one of the most visually beautiful books I have ever seen in my life. Oh my god, it is incredible, and all of these drawings are done by Florence. Just let me find another one. Why did I open the page and it was, oh there you go, just delish. This book is for everyone who wants to challenge their perceptions on misogyny and femininity and gender and feminism and class. It delves into a lot of topics. I will say, and I think this is not any issue with the book itself, but this didn't necessarily like teach me anything new. It was wonderful to hear these points like reinstated and to remind myself of my worth, especially, and I felt myself like nodding a lot, being like yes, absolutely yes. But I have read a lot of books like this before, so I think maybe if I was a bit younger, maybe if I was like 14 to like 18, this would have like changed my life. It's not intimidating in any way, which I think is so important when it comes to feminist teachings like this. But I don't think it taught me anything like new necessarily. Florence is 21, like that's incredible. I'm so just floored by the absolute, well, as I say, the absolute powerhouse, it's literally written there, that Florence is. Next we have one of my highly anticipated reads for 2020, which was Nikki French's House of Correction, which was published by Simon & Schuster. This came out in September, so it hasn't been out for long, and I read this about then. I read it August, September time. As you know, I was a huge fan of The Lying Room. So, the character of Stuart Rees is found dead in Tabitha's shed. She is obviously the person that killed him, and she's going to go to prison and her life is over. But is it? So this is told from Tabitha's perspective on how she is absolutely convinced that she did not kill Stuart Reeves because she doesn't remember it. She doesn't know what is going on, but she knows that she doesn't kill him, but she can't remember what happened. That was definitely a spoiler, I'm going to cut that. And what Tabitha decides to do is just great. This is more of a courtroom drama, I would say, than The Lying Room being like a crime thriller. It definitely has those elements to it as we kind of go back and see Tabitha's life and how she was perceived by the people that lived in this really small village that she'd recently gone back to after living there years before. And it did keep me guessing. I was so afraid that it would go horribly wrong because I trusted Tabitha's character so much, and I'd been burned before and I didn't want to get burned again. But yeah, absolutely, if you like a courtroom drama, if you like a book with twists and turns, if you enjoyed The Lying Room, or if you enjoyed the couple's like previous work, then I'd absolutely recommend this. I think it's really good. So the next book I have for you is Benjamin Labatut, I'm not sure, I'm sorry. When We Cease to Understand the World, which is published by Pushkin Press. This is the proof copy. It was out in September. So I was reading an interview with the author of this, and they described the book so well that I'm just going to read that. So they said, "What happens when we reach the edges of science and come face to face with what we cannot understand? It is about what occurs to the human mind when it is pushed past the outer limits of thought and what lies beyond those limits." So it's based around scientists throughout kind of the 20th century and their discoveries, but instead of focusing around that, it kind of focuses on the... it's quite difficult to describe the circumstances in which these things were discovered, and it has a little bit more nuance, but it was genuinely really interesting. I just mentioned Schrödinger and Heisenberg. There is a section where it talks about the quantum mechanics, and instead of looking at kind of what they discovered, it was more about the conditions and their lives of when it happened. Something really different, but if you're interested in the world of science or history, I really recommend giving this a go. If you're also unsure of non-fiction and you really love a fiction book, this is a nice blend of the two. This would make a really beautiful Christmas gift for somebody. I'm actually going to buy a new copy of it for my dad because he was an analytical chemist, so he's gonna bloody love this book. Okay, we're on to the last book that I read. I feel like I may have saved the best till last. I want to have a chat to you about Exit Management by Naomi Booth, and this is published by Dead Ink. So I picked this up while I was in Brighton. I went into City Books, which is one of my favourite bookshops, and I was just having a wander through. I hadn't really got anything in mind, and I saw this like front ways on the shelf, and I was like, yeah, that looks great. Then I read the blurb, which I'm going to read to you now, and I was like, okay, I'm in. And my god, this book is a whirlwind. So Callum has been given an opportunity. Joseph's house is the perfect place to live. Plenty of room, a sought after London location, and filled with priceless works of art. All that Joseph asks in return is for some company while he's ill, and the promise that if it all gets too much, someone will be there to help him at the end. It is fortunate then when Callum meets Lauren, who works in human resources and specialises in getting rid of people. Joseph welcomes them both inside, and so begins a deadly spiral of violence, pushed ever onwards by the poison of ambition and haunted by losses from the past. These characters are drawn together in a catastrophe of endings. We have Callum and Lauren, and then we have the side character of Joseph, who has lived this fascinating life, and quite a few parts in this book tell the stories of his life, which are really beautiful. Then we have this strange sexually charged relationship between Callum and Lauren, which is seated essentially on a bed of lies, which you know is never going to work out in the end. This deals with some really difficult things. The next thing I'm going to talk about is a very mild spoiler, so I'm just letting you know. Skip maybe 20 seconds ahead. There is a really disturbing depiction of a miscarriage in the kind of like middle to end of this book. If that's something that you don't feel comfortable reading, I'd maybe skip ahead in it, or this might not be for you, but it was very difficult to read, and it's relevant. It's not just like disturbing for the sake of being disturbing. Okay, spoilers over, you can come back. What Lauren decides to do in regards to Joseph is, I guess it almost feels inevitable in the book, and their obsession with class. Like Lauren's obsession and her friends in the book are awful people, and she's just so obsessed with feeling perfect because she feels like she has to, and that like internalized misogyny is so rife. It's genuinely one of the best books that I've ever read. I mean, like, the concept of it all happening behind closed doors is a really great metaphor to describe the book, because it happens all in these pages. Like, you just don't expect it to happen. Like, the things that go on in this are just so unexpected. And to say that I just picked it up on a complete whim, I'm so floored. This is exactly the kind of book that I like. If you like things like The Dinner by Herman Koch, you'll really like this book. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love this book so much. Right, we made it to the end, guys. We did it together. Thank you so much for watching if you got to the end of that. I am currently reading a couple of books. I'm currently reading Base Rock by IVE. I'm almost finished. It's great. I am very excited to talk about this. I saw it on Lauren the Books' channel and her Instagram, and she absolutely loved it, and I was like, if she loves it, I trust her. And I'm also reading Laura Bates's Misogynation, which I'm a Laura Bates stan, is fantastic, and I'll talk about that soon. But until then, I will see you real soon. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.